Hi everyone and welcome back. Welcome to my playlist where we are talking about Next.js, right? So this is actually the GitHub repository where I will be adding all the showcase applications. And we are going to talk about very basic, intermediate to the advanced level applications you can build in the Next.js. We have already covered the basic fundamentals and all the features and all the concepts of Next.js. Now it's time to write actual applications and try to see all those in the demos. Okay, so this application is just a simple. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create two different pages, and here we are using Next.js 13, and this is already a setup, and you can just generate this whole code through the CLI app. Okay, here I have a tailwind configuration. If you want to have a tailwind styles, TS config because we are writing a TypeScript, post CSS with a tailwind, and next config which is saying the experimental app directory. I can zoom in a little bit, so you can see this is like a baseline. Everything is empty. I don't have any APIs. You can start creating APIs if you want, and then inside apps you will start creating your pages, your layouts, and all these things. By default, currently this application won't render anything because we don't have a default page and default layout. Right, so inside app, what I will do is I will create a layout.tsx, okay, and then page.tsx, right? And we have already discussed that now we have other states also, like loading and error page also you can create. So I will be creating loading.tsx and style.css. I mean, I don't have a styles, but let's create it. For the small application, I won't be using tailwind and all. We can just use small utility helpers, or we can write our own styles. Inside app, I'm going to have two different routes, which is like, let's say, the news and weather. And we are going to fetch this data from some API, because obviously we are not building a news portal or a weather system. We are going to use some APIs to fetch some random news and random weather data. Okay, here it will have a page.tsx. Similarly, news will have a page.tsx. So here we'll talk about how we can have asynchronous components and how we can fetch the data inside a server components. So it depends on us how we want to create this component. Is it a client side component where a client only, or it will be a server component where you can fetch the data and all those things? You have a freedom, right? So let's say I'm going to do first weather, and how we can create a simple component is export default async, and this will contains the whole thing what I'm going to return. This is going to return a JSX. Okay, before that I'm going to have an API, or let's say here I can just do a fetch const. I am going to fetch some data. We can just use simple await fetch, and there is an API which gives us a random weather of a particular location. So fetch takes an argument as an input, and then second argument we have is an object. And here in the Next.js there is another options are available is revalidate. What it is doing is, we will talk about this. What actually this parameter will do is, using this we can have some kind of a caching mechanism available in the Next.js. Okay, so here we are doing just a fetch, and then once we have the data we can just do a dot, then we got some response, and we can just serialize this response and we can return response.json. Either you write two lines of code, or you can just manage the whole thing in just a one line, right? What we are doing is await fetch, and then dot, then we got the promise, and we just serialize the data and we got the response. And what we are looking for, if we look into this URL, what it is giving us, it is giving us some weather data. So I'm interested in the forecast property, so I will get the forecast object. And then this forecast object we can just render on our component. Okay. So first of all, you can see we are making some API call, and let's say here I'm just printing simple h1 We will talk about the rendering part, like how you can render this data, which we are getting. Same thing I'm doing at the page.tsx inside a news. Here the API will be different for the news because I'm going to access some another API, which is going to give me the random articles. Here I'm interested in the articles property, so I can get it the articles, and then hello news, let's say. Now what we need to do is we got the articles, we need to somehow manage the rendering part that we can do. So this is a kind of an application we are writing, right? Here we are using this another property which is available in the Next 13. What it is doing is you can actually revalidate the cache. So by default the Next.js, these fetch will cache the queries, cache the API call for 15 seconds, and after that it will revalidate it, and then it will make a fresh call. And here we are talking about the layouts and pages. So by default on this page I'm going to show simple message, okay, simply welcome to the dashboard or something like that. And then we have a loading property. Inside loading we are going to show this loading whenever the asynchronous operation happens. So export default function loading. This is a loading component which will return just loading behavior. Either you have some loading component, or you can simply say loading. Okay, we got the layout. Now inside a layout we just have two different links. One will take you to the news page, another will take you to the weather page. So this is function app, and this is a root layout of the application. So you will have access to the children. Let's say for now just put the any, and this is the function app, and what it is going to do is it is going to return, because this is the root layout, this is going to return the whole JSX of the whole page. So here we will have HTML body part and all, and then nav link. I'm just trying to populate these things for us. It is just a simple Next.js, right? Simple layout component we have, which has a two nav links, news and weather, because we already have a news route and the weather route. Okay, pretty much this is what we have. I mean, we can talk about rendering the data, because now we have a data from the news and weather pages, and we will just write the JSX to render that kind of objects which we have here. You can see this is the article data and this is the weather data. So I will just do npm run dev. We got the loading layout component, loading component, page.tsx. Okay, I think this is available. Let's see, localhost 3000. This is talking about a simple data fetch, and there is some error. Let's see what it is. Maybe I need to clean up the dependencies. So it's all about I need to switch to the latest version, and I forgot of doing this. So the build error gone. Now we obviously we need to use the latest one, v16.18.0, and then I will just do npm run dev, and this will just render my application. I know it's not going to do anything because our news and weather is not rendering the data, they are just making call. I just wanted to show you how we are creating the page-based routes, how we are showing the loading state and all. Compile successfully, and let's see this. So we got these two links. When I click on the news, you can see the loading behavior. Hello weather, hello news. Now what is the next part? This loading is coming from the loading.tsx, and when you click on it, it is navigating to that particular route, and then it is making API call. Now, so how it looks like. Now you can actually customize this, and I already have a template which is talking about how to render this. we can do it, and then we can render the whole component. So this is just a simple demo. Now what you can do is you can render the whole weather information in the weather component. In the weather page, you can see the whole weather information is coming like this. I mean, we can format it in some better way and can render the data. This is just a simple demo. Okay, how you are making API calls. Writing this JSX is not part of this video. Here we are just making this call to this API and revalidating in the 15 seconds and then just rendering the data. Similarly, in the news page, you are getting already the data. You can render that, just keep the formatting, just do the formatting of the text you are getting, and you can show it. The whole objective of this is how we are writing asynchronous component, how we are using this loading TSX, the loading state. So whenever any asynchronous execution happens, this loading.tsx will trigger automatically, and all of these are server components. You can see these all are server components. We are not using client only, client side or client only. Okay, so this is just like a very beginner level example I was talking about. I mean, it has all the setup of Tailwind and all. If you want to just write your own APIs and all, then you can use this example. Next, we are going to make it more improvements, and we are going to also write some APIs, and then we'll consume the APIs in the components.